Hello. In this video, I'll be talking about straight-line interest amortization. Straight-line interest amortization has to do with amortizing the discount or premium that a company records when they sell a bond. And before we get into that, just want to quickly go over how we determine the price of a bond. And remember, a bond are securities that companies can issue, which means sell out in the open market as a way of raising money for the company itself. And the bond price, the amount of money the company decides is the bond price, or to record the bond price, will be made up of two things. One is the present value of the principal payable at maturity, and two is the present value of all the interest payments that come along with that bond. And those amounts are present valued at the market rate, and the interest payments are recorded or calculated, I should say, at the face amount or the principal amount of the bond multiplied by the stated rate on the bond. If you're not familiar with how a bond price is calculated or the terms market rate or stated rate, face amount, these are all principles that I've discussed in prior videos. It will be under the video, I believe it's called bonds and types of bonds, and also discounted bonds go into this in great detail. Bond prices are typically stated in terms of a percentage. So if you have a bond sold at a discount, a quote price of 98 means $1,000 bond is sold at 98% of its value, of its face amount, I should say, and that means it's sold for $980. And a bond, a $1,000 bond that's sold at 101 means it's sold at 101%, which would make the bond $1,010. I'm going to go through this quick example that is detailed out in the previous video under discounted bonds. However, I will be using these amounts to explain the straight line amortization concept. So this example, January 1, 2027, Masterware Industries issued a $700,000 of 12% bonds on dated January 1. Interest of $42,000 is payable semi-annually on June 30th and December 31st. Bonds mature in 3 years. The market rate is 14%, and the buyer, United Intergroup Inc., plans to hold the bonds until maturity. So, like I said, the previous slide, the calculation, the price of the bond will be made up of twofold. One is the present value of the principal or the face amount. So it would be the present value of $700,000, and the factor we use is the present value of a dollar factor, where n equals 6 because there are 6 interest payments, and I equals 7 because we use the market rate of 14% when calculating present values, but you have to divide that by 2 because there are 2 payments per year. And so when you take the 700,000 times the present value of a dollar factor, you get 466,000. The second part of calculating the price of a bond is the present value of all the interest payments. The interest payments are $42,000, and the factor that we use is the present value of an ordinary annuity, which is the table we use when we have payments made on a regular basis, and that will come out to $200,195. You add both those amounts up, and this bond will have a selling price of $666,633. The way this bond will be recorded for the issuer is the issuer, which is Masterware, is going to receive cash for the $666,000. They're going to record a bonds payable, a liability for the face amount of $700,000, and then the discount is what's called a discount on bonds payable. That's a contra liability account. So if I go to my T accounts, if I put the bonds payable and the discount on the bonds payable on the T account, based on this entry, my bonds payable has a $700,000 credit, and my discount has a $33,367,000 debit when we initially record this bond. The discount for $33,000 is amortized over the life of the bond. In a previous video, we saw how it was amortized using the effective interest rate method. Another way to amortize the discount, or it could be a premium, on the bond is using the straight line method. And this is a lot more straightforward than the effective interest rate method. What you do is you take the amount of the discount. In this situation, it's a discount. If it was a premium, you would take the amount of the premium and divide by the number of interest payments made for the life of the bond, which in this situation is 6 periods. And that gives you $5,561. And what you're going to do, this is what you're going to amortize down the discount for every period. So the payment that's made every 6 months is for the interest payment. We're going to credit cash for the $42,000. That does not change, whether you're doing the straight line interest method or the effective interest method. And so the interest payment is going to be the stated rate times the face amount. And our discount is going to be whatever every period. This is going to be our discount, the amortization on the discount. So we're going to credit the discount bonds payable $5,561 every single period for 6 periods. And then we're going to debit interest expense for the $5,000 plus the $42,000, just so the entry balances. So this $5,561, I'm going to go back to my T counts here. The $5,561 will get recorded every June 30th and every December 31st, and that will happen 6 times because there's going to be 6 periods, such that at the end of this, after 6 periods, my balance on the discount on bonds payable will be 0. Let's just take a look at this also, how the bondholder would record this entry every for the 6 periods, every 6 months. So United as an investor, they get cash of $42,000 for the interest. They're going to debit their discount on bond investment account that they had set up when they first purchased the bond. So they're going to debit the discount bond investment for the $5,561, and then they're going to credit interest revenue to balance out this entry, which is the same as the interest expense recorded by the issuer. So the straight line method is very simple. You just take whatever your discount or premium amounts are, and you divide by the number of periods that the interest payments occur. If you want to see it in a schedule, this is what it looks like if you want to compare it to the effective interest rate amortization schedule. You have your initial issuance of the bond, and then you have the 6 interest payments. The interest payments are always the same, $42,000. This is the same as you would see in the effective interest rate method amortization schedule. However, for the interest expense that's recorded, it will be recorded the same amount each period, every 6 months. And basically, we're going to back into this $47,561. It's just that we know that the credit to the discount on bonds payable account will be recorded the same amount every 6 months, the $5,561, and then the $47,561 will be the $42,000 plus the $5,500. So you can see here that at the end, this is how much interest expense is recorded. You're going to have total credits of $33,366 or $367. This is probably rounded, but at the end of the day, at the end of the 6 periods, and your total outstanding balance for your bonds payable will be the original face amount of $700,000. When you have a straight line amortization, you don't need this schedule because it's the same every period. The schedule is just really helpful, or needed, necessary really, when you have the effective interest rate method. If you're unfamiliar with why the 700,000 remains, please again go see the video under discounted bonds. There's a note at the bottom of the slide that says the straight line method is an application of the materiality concept by which an appropriate application of GAAP, like the effective interest method, can be bypassed for reasons of practical expediency in situations when doing so has no material effect on the results. What this says is that for GAAP purposes, you can use the straight line method over the effective interest method because it's easier, but you can only do that in situation when using the straight line amortization method has no material effect on the results compared to if you were to use the effective interest method. So as long as the interest expense amount and the amortization that you're recording every interest pay period is not materially different than what would be recorded using the effective interest method, then a company can go ahead and use the straight line method. And the reality is that the majority of companies end up using this straight line method because it's easier, and they can feel confident that doing so is not going to be materially different than if they were to use the effective interest method.